why is Bitcoin sort of not wildly off to the races yet? And it's this chart. Bitcoin is basically, this is a detrended Bitcoin, and it's basically the ISM, which is the business cycle. Remember, we've always said it's the business cycle stupid. It is always the business cycle stupid. And all of these people who claim it's the 4-year cycle based around this and that, they don't understand the fundamental of what the business cycle is, why there's a 4-year cycle and everything. And we've explained it. We'll go through it in great detail tomorrow in our Everything Code presentation. But basically, it's following the ISM. And rates have been following the same pattern. You see, rates should have come lower. They need to come lower because we need to roll the debt. We've talked about this. That's part of the Everything Code, fundamental part. And ISM, because rates are so high, has meant that Main Street has been screwed while Wall Street's made money from debasement. Earnings versus scarce assets. This is the issue that they need to solve, and they need to get rates lower. They get rates lower. Why? Why do we have an elongated business cycle that looks like virtually no other real other time? It's because, and I only just found this out redoing the work on the Everything Code recently, is that in 2021-22, they actually extended the maturity of the debt from 4 years to 5 years. So that extension of the maturity of debt has pushed out the business cycle a year. The 4-year cycle this time around is a 5-year cycle. We don't know what the next one will be until we see where they all end up getting refinanced. Whether it comes back to 4 because they managed to get some stuff at the long end, or whether they shorten it because everything's in the short end. We don't know yet. But this one is a 5-year cycle. And this is what it looks like. A 5.4-year sine curve. 5.4 years is the exact average weighted maturity of the debt. And it tells us the ISM should peak by 2026. We think liquidity probably peaks before that, as the rate of change of ISM changes and the rate of change of liquidity changes. Our best guess remains well into 2026, probably Q2.
Hello, everybody, and welcome back to another episode of your favorite crypto news related channel. And as you guys can tell, the market is rebounding this morning. So I wanted to play that Raul Paul video to kind of kick off today's episode. There's a lot of exciting things that are happening in the market. We're going to cover every single one of those today. Now, yesterday we had Evernorth backed by Ripple creating the first ever XRP reserve going live on the Nasdaq. Now, this is going to allow clients to earn a yield and build new XRP use cases, driving more institutional adoption into this project. Now, why is this important? We can add this to the equation of new demand that is entering the crypto space. And it's just one of the reasons why I believe XRP is set to perform or outperform the majority of other altcoins in the market today. Dom from EZA summarized this very well. FYI, the important thing to know about the XRP Treasury company is that it will be buying XRP on the open market. So when the US government is back up and running and these ETFs are approved here in, I believe, the fall of 2025, we are now going to have institutions able to buy XRP through a Nasdaq acquisition. This is so exciting. We've never seen anything like it before. And many of our favorite Ripple executives are going to be helping lead these new narratives, as Brad Garlinghouse and David Schwartz both announced that they would be strategic advisors for the Evernorth fund. Now, that's not where the excitement ended. We also had Ripple co-founder here, Chris Larsen, donating 50 million units, or sorry, not donating, investing 50 million units of XRP into the new Nasdaq firm. And this got a lot of attention yesterday. There were some false narratives being shared on Twitter. I wanted to highlight this for a brief moment. This got 602,000 views on X yesterday from this person. Let's see how many followers they have, just because I'm curious. They got about 45,000 followers. Now, what did they say? Chris Larsen, Ripple's co-founder, just offloaded 50 million XRP, about $120 million worth in the past hour. Still buying the hype? He's cashing out and you're holding the bag. Well, obviously, this is more fake news from the non-XRP community, because Chris Larsen didn't sell his XRP. He invested it into the corporation that is Evernorth, which is set to go live on the Nasdaq sometime in the next month or so, I believe. So we're going to take you guys through the details on that this morning. We also had the Federal Reserve coming out and making a major announcement that I'm going to show you right here. They are looking into payment accounts that would grant fintech and crypto companies access to the Fed payment rails. So again, first company that comes to mind here, obviously it's Ripple, but I would also anticipate that Chainlink is going to be a major player here as we head into 2025, guys. So we already got 1,500 live listeners. If you're excited, you enjoy this content, smash that like button, subscribe to the channel, as you're going to get 2 updates every single day, one at 11 a.m. and another at 5:30 p.m. Eastern time. And I did just want to give a huge thank you, guys. The likes have been off the charts this past week. We've got 1,600, 1,700 likes back-to-back days, 1,600 likes once again. Just want to give a huge shout out to the best community in all of crypto. And hopefully heading into November, these price charts are going to get really, really exciting. And you guys are going to get to reap the benefits of a crypto bull market here with the Good Evening Crypto community. So I'm super excited about that, guys. Can't emphasize that enough. A lot of exciting things happening in the crypto space. I did just want to summarize this Evernote news because I did it in the short form content yesterday. Wanted to make sure I hit it on the live stream this morning as well. When we look at what happened with Evernorth yesterday, compare this to MicroStrategy. And I've got a phenomenal thread that I'm going to take you guys through right after I read through this latest update here. But the big news was they're going public. We've entered a business combination agreement with the Armada Acquisition Corporation. A transaction is expected to raise over $1 billion, creating the largest XRP Treasury company on the Nasdaq under new ticker symbol XRPN, maybe XRP Nasdaq as it should stand for. And new CEO of this company, Ashish Burla, made these 2 really prominent and strong comments yesterday. XRP represents a rare opportunity, one of the few digital assets with clear U.S. regulatory standing, deep liquidity, and a proven role in powering global payments. But that's not where the excitement ended. As CEO and chairman of the board of directors for Evernorth, I'm incredibly excited to get started. With this new role, I'll be stepping down from Ripple's board of directors. Wanted to give a huge thank you to investors, partners, and the team who made this vision a reality. Keep an eye out for our new ticker, XRPN, on the Nasdaq, guys. So I was super excited to hear this news, and I believe we're going to see more acquisitions out of Ripple. This is an entirely untouched market. We have not discussed the XRP Treasury market nearly enough, so I'm really excited to start covering this on a daily basis for you guys. Want to give a big thank you to Richard, $5. Abs, thank you for everything you do. God bless you and our community and XRP. I love what Jake Claver had to say about this the other night, guys. I wanted to repeat this one more time. What's so exciting about being an XRP investor is that let's play out the narrative that we're correct. And by the year 2028, this is a triple-digit asset. We're looking at $120 XRP hypothetically. That is going to create so much wealth for our community in particular, and people are really going to decide what impact they'd like to have with that newfound wealth. Buying a home, starting a business, getting into politics, having an impact on the community around you, donating some of that money. The XRP community is going to have a really unique advantage to have an impact, the same way that we've seen Bitcoin investors do the same thing here in the American markets. Look at a guy like Michael Saylor. Michael Saylor got famous back during the 2008 crash for, I believe, losing $9 billion in a single day. It was the largest amount of money that anybody had ever lost in a single day at the time. That's where Michael Saylor started from. Look at him now. He's one of the most prominent voices for the Bitcoin community. And if you look at the structure, if it's sustainable, he's going to be here for decades to come. Now, I'm not advocating for this. I'm not an investor in the strategy company or anything like that. But I think Ripple is implementing something very similar here, where they're going to buy XRP off the open market, deploy that XRP to earn a yield, earn XRP in return, reinvest that XRP to deploy for additional yield, and repeat that process over and over again, creating this really interesting flywheel effect here for the XRP price chart, where you've got the ETFs, you've got the treasuries, you've got the stable coins. Every single narrative is being touched, and it seems like Ripple is really driving it home once again, guys. So wanted to emphasize that at the beginning of today's episode. Now let's start right here. The Federal Reserve is looking into payment accounts that would grant crypto and fintech companies access to the Federal Reserve payment rails. Well, I've got access to the interesting meeting that actually happened this morning, the opening statements at the Federal Reserve's event for payment innovation, which is happening right now. And I'm just going to let this play because the first 60 seconds here speaks volumes, guys. He talks about where we are in the adoption process today and why people like ourselves are so far ahead of the average retail investor. We are going to have access to the new digital payment system, and I don't think people have fully embodied what that really means. Let's listen to what the Federal Reserve has to say.
Good morning. All right. Well, thank you, Susan, and good morning to everyone. It's my pleasure to welcome you to the Federal Reserve Board for our first Payments Innovation Conference. My objective in creating this conference is twofold. First, I wanted to have a conference that focused on the new technologies that had come from the DeFi and crypto worlds and how they are entering into the mainstream payments ecosystem. My goal is to have a vibrant discussion about payments between traditional payment incumbents and the new entrants from the DeFi world. Second, I wanted to send a message that this is a new era for the Federal Reserve in payments. The DeFi industry is not viewed with suspicion or scorn. Rather, today, you are welcome to the conversation on the future of payments in the United States and on our home field, something that would have been unimaginable a few years ago. My view for the Fed from now on is embrace the disruption, don't avoid it. As you know, we are well into a technology-driven revolution in payments, and I'm here to say that the Federal Reserve intends to be an active part of that revolution. A number of technological advances are transforming the payment system. Stablecoins and tokenized assets, making use of distributed ledger technology, the rapid adoption of artificial intelligence AI, and increasingly the convergence between these innovations and the traditional financial ecosystem. This includes the institutions and infrastructure that our economy has long depended on to operate a safe and efficient payment system. And yes, this also includes the Federal Reserve. The revolution in transforming payments is demanding change everywhere. And I will say more in a moment about some new ideas that the Federal Reserve is studying to support those innovations. I have spoken before of what I see as the two broad models of payments innovation in our market economy. The first is private sector-driven innovation. Most innovation comes from the private sector, which is motivated and best positioned to allocate resources and take risk with new technologies. The second model is when public sector entities, such as the Fed, build platforms and provide services that enable the private sector to more readily and rapidly expand new services to its customers. This should be done rarely and in limited circumstances where it addresses a specific market need. The posture of public institutions, including the Federal Reserve, should be to acknowledge and embrace private sector innovation that can improve the payment system while preserving its safety and stability, which are as essential to the new generation of innovators as they are to legacy institutions. Now, let me pull back a moment and remind everyone how we got here. Since nearly its founding, the Federal Reserve System has worked to facilitate payment and settlement system efficiency alongside the private sector. From the beginning, the clearing services provided by the reserve banks obviated the need for daily movements of cash in armored cars with heavily armed guards. Long before we started speaking of the payment rails that are facilitating the kind of innovation we're discussing today, the Fed was running trains on steel rails to deliver and clear paper checks traveling across the country. FedWire began conducting interbank transfers through telegraph wires in the early 20th century. Fast forward today, where we have multiple infrastructures that settle interbank transfers in real time. Today's conference will focus on private sector-driven innovation. We have assembled 100 private sector innovators who are leveraging cutting-edge technology to create new possibilities in the payments landscape. Our panelists are engaging in integrating traditional financial payment rails with distributed ledgers, developing new products and services in the digital asset ecosystem, and leveraging AI in the payment system. It's worth noting that the firms engaged in these activities include banks, asset managers, retail payment firms, technology companies, as well as crypto-native fintechs. This is an acknowledgement that distributed ledgers and crypto assets are no longer on the fringes, but are increasingly woven into the fabric of the payment and financial system.
There you have it, guys. That last sentence is so important. Going forward, crypto is going to be woven within the traditional payment system. And we're not even hearing this from like an industry executive or a Wall Street executive. We're hearing this directly from the Federal Reserve this morning. So I think people are really underestimating just how early we are in this entire process when it comes to United States banks onboarding blockchain technology. And even more importantly, the Federal Reserve endorsing the digital asset revolution that has been taking place since probably all the way back in 2017. Now, I did want to address one of the live chats, guys. Usually we wait till the end of the program. I want to give a special shout out to Allie. She said, what impact will Evernorth have on retail XRP investors? Well, here's where this is really exciting, right? We have not factored in Treasury companies going out into the open market and buying XRP off of exchanges. There is going to be $1 billion of brand new demand that is generated here. And they're going to be going to exchanges like Coinbase, like Uphold, like Kraken to purchase that XRP off the open market. I think that's a perfect segue into the thread that I was going to take you guys through, but we'll just dive right into this. The comparison between what Evernorth is doing and what MicroStrategy has already created. But we already have 3,000 live listeners here, guys. If you're enjoying this content, be sure to smash that like button. We greatly appreciate every single one of you. And so many people are enjoying these new 11 a.m. streams. Well, they're not new. They're just new on this channel. So I want to give a special thank you to anybody who found the new channel. But let's dive right into this content because this is super valuable. what's Ripple's mission here by creating this treasury company, or at least working to develop this? They are creating new demand for XRP investors. They're also going to allow traditional investors to get exposure to XRP by purchasing a TradFi stock ticker. This would be similar to, if there was a company out there, actually the best comparison is what we're going to go through, MicroStrategy. If you don't want to get direct exposure to Bitcoin, you can buy shares of MicroStrategy and you're going to get that exposure allocated. Same idea is being applied here for XRP. We are going to see XRP continue to be used as a treasury asset, not just in the US, but offshore as well. And I think yesterday's announcement highlight that in a more clear way than we've ever seen before. So here's what Ripple Bullwinkle had to say. Evernorth is basically MicroStrategy, but built for XRP from the ground up. And here's why it matters for the price. When a publicly listed company or regulated fund accumulates an asset on the open market, every purchase adds real demand. There's no pre-mine, there's no discount, there's no OTC sweetheart deals. It's a market rate buying pressure that tightens up the supply. Evernorth has already said that their treasury company will buy XRP directly from exchanges and not through private allocations. That's rare. Most institutional vehicles negotiate discounts, and Evernorth isn't doing this. And I think the reason they're doing this, guys, is because Evernorth is invested in helping the XRP price appreciate over time. They are going to create additional demand alongside the stablecoins, alongside the tokenized assets, and of course, alongside the ETFs that we think will be approved. We are now going to see treasury companies creating another pillar of demand for the XRP asset. Every time they accumulate, the circulating supply that retail traders get access to shrinks in size. Combine that with XRP's fixed supply, and sudden small waves of demand can move that price much faster. Now, an interesting piece of data I thought our listeners would appreciate is that open interest on XRP is at the lowest level we've seen in several months. Open interest was about $10.5 billion last week. After we had that major correction on October 11th, open interest right now is down to $3.5 billion. So we've seen nearly a 70% reduction in open interest for XRP. But that's not just buying pressure. They're also creating utility, liquidity pools, lending, yield programs built around XRP as the base asset. So the more on-chain use cases, the more transaction volume, the more reason for institutions to hold XRP for settlement. Now imagine what Evernorth lists on the Nasdaq. Wall Street traders, pension funds, and ETFs can get regulated exposure to XRP by buying Evernorth shares. That's the big change that this company is offering here. Nobody is going to have to go to an exchange and buy XRP going forward. They can go to the Nasdaq, buy the Evernorth shares, and get direct exposure to XRP. Very similar to a spot product. So again, I hope everybody is understanding why this is great for XRP investors, because it's going to be pulling demand off the exchanges. It's going to be pulling a lot of the supply and adding additional demand, I should say. That flow of fiat liquidity has been hedged somehow. Where do you think Evernorth goes to maintain its treasury ratio? Right back to XRP on the open market. And that's kind of that flywheel effect that I described prior. They're going to buy XRP, deploy that XRP for a yield, earn XRP in return, reinvest, as well as pay out dividends, and then complete that process for years to come. So you have real market accumulation, a shrinking float, growing utility on the XRP ledger because people are going to be using this to generate a yield, and then fresh institutional capital entering through the Nasdaq. Those are some of the ingredients that pushed Bitcoin from $100 to tens of thousands once MicroStrategy and others started stacking. Another very important thing to note about this brand new company, I think there's going to be dozens of companies that follow this same strategy. So this is just one of many that are coming through the door. Only this time it's being done legally, transparently, and with the explicit intent to grow the XRP ecosystem. Whether you're an investor, a trader, or just watching from the sidelines, this setup isn't just random price action, it's infrastructure turning into demand. Now, a lot of people are going to turn to the positive price action we're seeing today and maybe even correlate this to something that has to do with the news. There's no buying that's happening yet, right? We need this company to go public. We need the funds to be raised. We need the XRP to be accumulated. None of that has occurred. Right now, these are all headlines. These are narratives. Once the SEC approves this brand new fund, that's when I think this gets really exciting for the XRP price chart. And going back to Ali's original question, why is this exciting for XRP? Because once again, they are taking supply off the exchanges and creating additional demand by having a brand new vehicle live on the Nasdaq for anybody who wants to get exposure to this asset. But with that being said, I'm going to turn to a brief interview here with Paul Barron. And I do have some exciting news for you guys. on Thursday, 10 a.m. Eastern, I'm going to be recording my second podcast with Paul Barron. Looking forward to doing that. So if you're excited about that, smash that like button. I'll keep you guys updated. Typically, I think he publishes it 48 hours after or 24 hours after, but I'll give you guys an update on kind of how that went. And I'm really looking forward to that. So shout out to Paul Barron. Big thank you to him for having me on once again. Let's hear what the Dom and Phil from the EZA app had to say about all these acquisitions happening with Ripple.
What's Ripple trying to do here?
Well,
Hit it, Dom.
yeah, I mean, I think, at a high level, I think, Ripple really wants to have, the XRP ledger and sort of, its tentacles really on the whole financial infrastructure that powers the world. So obviously, Hidden Road on the brokerage side, Treasury just now on the Treasury side, Rail as well on the stablecoin side. And I think, once you start to see all of those different pieces come together, that's really where you're going to start to see sort of, the power of what they've been building over the last many years. So I think that's really the goal, it's to make sure that no matter which bit of the financial infrastructure someone is interfacing with, they are ultimately, indirectly, even if they don't know it, touching, an aspect of Ripple's tech. And I think, you see that as well with many of the other companies that have really sort of, taken off in the tech space. A great example is Facebook, which is now obviously called Meta. They bought Instagram, then they bought WhatsApp, and then they bought, all these other different companies. And, when you're interacting with Facebook and you think of Meta, many people don't know that, there are actually a whole host of other companies underneath them, like WhatsApp and Instagram. And, these are standalone companies that were then rolled up and actually became much more valuable once they all came together. So I think that's really sort of the high level structure of what's happening. And ultimately, there's a ton more that maybe Phil wants to touch on as well.
Do you think, Phil, that this plays into a long-term strategy, or do you feel like these are just opportunities that are coming across Ripple's desk and they're like saying, hey, we cannot not buy this company?
Yeah, it's a really good question. I don't want to say anything that's not, public yet, but I think if you, from the outside, if you look at Ripple's approach, it's always been different to the traditional sort of, well, I'd say traditional, but the prevailing cypherpunk sort of approach. If you look at the different strands that crypto really started off from, those Bitcoin, right, which I say is more on the cypherpunk tradition. The first post that Jed McCaleb made on Bitcoin Talk was about XRP or as a better alternative to Bitcoin, right? It was just his idea. And then the whole ethos behind Ripple and where it came from was, look, we need to build on what's come before, right? We're not going to build this all just from nothing. We got to work with the existing financial system. And if you see what Chris Larson talks about as well, he always talks about how there has never been a big technological shift which hasn't built on what's come before. And I think that what you see happening with Ripple is really in that ethos. It's in the ethos that, look, we're going to build on what's happened before. We're going to work together with institutions. And Ripple has been executing that playbook over the past decade. It's been to work with banks rather than to actually try and say, look, we're going to completely put banks aside. We're going to put them out of business, which has been more what other parts of DeFi have done, right? It's going to be like, we'll kill JP Morgan, whereas Ripple has more been, look, we're going to work together with banking institutions. We're going to work together with all these different financial institutions. And so I think that what you're starting to see right now, and what we can, talk to publicly, is we are seeing that there's more of what you're seeing is just this strategy really coming into the fore. And you're starting to see Ripple make big moves to actually capture that and cement what's been building over the past decade.
I think that's so exciting, guys, because he made a great correlation between how Meta and Apple and some of these other traditional successful companies went from just a small market cap to north of trillions of dollars on the open market. And this is one of the reasons that I'm really, really excited about XRP, because again, in the short term, people seem to be overly optimistic. In the long term, I don't think people are optimistic enough. Now, Jay Claver doesn't fit into this conversation because those price targets are really, really exciting. But when I talk to people who are focused on a $10 or a $12 or a $20 XRP, I think that, yeah, we're going to get there in the next couple of years, but that's not what the end game is. The end game for XRP investors is owning a portion of the future of finance. Think about it like an original Bitcoin investor. If you had bought Bitcoin 10 years ago, you were buying an asset that was less than $300 in value. You didn't have to be a genius. You didn't even have to know what you hold. You just had to sit on that asset for a long enough period of time to where it accumulated to these dramatically higher price targets, like $100,000 Bitcoin on a bearish trend, right? XRP is going through that same process. 8 years ago, this was an asset that was trading at $3, right? Then we traded down and sideways for 8 years, never being able to break that new all-time high. For the first time in 8 years, we went up and we retested those levels here in 2024. And then once again, we broke those previous highs in 2025. Now, that to me, again, speaks volumes when you think about where we are in the process of adoption today. No ETFs, no treasuries, no clarity, nothing really happening when you think about from a real world adoption standpoint, and we're still looking at this asset ready to break all-time highs. What do you guys think rationally happens when real world companies need to use XRP and are reliant on Ripple products? That demand is only going to increase. So I'm really excited. I'm going to show you guys an update right now in regards to that. We do have over 5,000 live listeners here. If you're enjoying this content, show us some love, smash that like button. I believe we already passed 500 likes on the episode. So just wanted to give a huge shout out and thank you to the best community in all of crypto. And I want to give a special thank you to Black Squirrel, aka Tommy Two Feathers in chat, for the $100 donation this morning. Thank you so much, my friend. And a big shout out to Tommy. Now, what's really cool about Tom is that he was actually the first and only person who was a fan of the Good Morning Crypto show to come and join us live on air. That's something I plan on doing here on Good Evening Crypto as well. We incorporate those live phone calls during our giveaways. If you guys want us to open up a phone number and we could have some live phone calls, live Q&As, I think that'd be really exciting. Smash that like button, throw a comment in chat. Let us know some of your thoughts. But a big thank you to Thomas, and I'm going to be reading these comments at the end of the stream, so be sure to stick around. When you think about what Ripple's doing here, it's exactly what Dom and Phil said in that very short clip. They are creating real world demand. They are creating companies that are reliant on Ripple's technology, with XRP being that underlying asset layer. So you can't have anything with Ripple if you're not using XRP. Same idea is happening right here. When you look at the acquisitions that Ripple has been making over the past year or so, they're billion-dollar acquisitions. They're going after huge mainstream companies, whether it's Medico or Rail or Hidden Road or Standard Custody. All of these different acquisitions are tapping into different facets of the crypto economy. And that's what Dom and Phil were highlighting prior in that clip. When these use cases are actually being utilized, and it's not an acquisition phase, it's not even an onboarding phase, but instead it's real world adoption, that's when people like us are being proven correct. That's when we can sit back, look at our crypto portfolios and go, thank God I took the long-term approach when investing in digital assets. And we're going to highlight that kind of all throughout the show. But let's go through some of these acquisitions as well. Hidden Road was acquired for $1.25 billion, right? 1.25 billion US dollars. And Ripple still has $11 billion liquid on their balance sheet, ready to go out and acquire additional companies. That is a prime brokerage, a clearinghouse, a multi-asset infrastructure company. They are working, I believe they do, I'm blanking. I used to know the number, $7 trillion annually. It might even be higher, guys. I'm not entirely sure, but I'll double check that before the end of the episode. They then went on to acquire stablecoin provider Rail. The largest B2B payment provider for stablecoins was acquired by Ripple for $200 million. This is going to boost Ripple's stablecoin adoption and give a level playing field here against products like USDC. Medico was also acquired for $250 million. It's a crypto custody, tokenization, and institutional custody service. This is giving Ripple additional footprint in the US. Standard Custody and Trust, Fortress Trust, and Algrim, all Ripple acquisitions. And John Deaton said, I don't believe Brad Garlinghouse is done either, right? We are going to see more acquisitions out of Ripple. We are going to see more infrastructure being built on the XRP ledger. And that's just one of a billion reasons that I'm so excited. And I think the market was overly bearish. I came here time and time again over the last couple of weeks, guys, and was very transparent about the fact that people were calling for a bear market. I think this market is going to turn extremely bullish. I really, really do. The ETFs, the Clarity Act, the adoption we're seeing, so much is working in our favor. And now we can add a treasury company onto that. We can add the acquisition of G Treasury for $1 billion. So many different narratives, guys. It's unbelievable. I don't understand how people can look at what's happening in the market today and be bearish. And look at what happened yesterday. AWS went down and the internet came to a halt. This goes to show the problem with a centralized platform like Ethereum, right? Ethereum, another major issue here. But I think Cameron Winklevoss said this best. One company, Amazon, is down, so the entire internet is down. This illustrates the importance of decentralization. Whether you're talking about internet apps or money, it's absolutely crucial. And look at what happened here. AWS is down and the internet stops, but blockchain, it never goes down. Wait a minute, scratch that, said this user. This sector is a joke. Everyone preaching decentralization and censorship resistant, but in reality, it's 100% reliant on cloud technology. So again, AWS goes down, Coinbase goes down. I heard Ethereum was having problems processing transactions. It's a big issue, guys. It's a really, really big issue. And I think it speaks to the problem with how centralized many of our information outlets are today. When you look at where even we are on social media, there's like 3 social media platforms that control the world, and they're all centralized. None of them are decentralized platforms. I love X. I love YouTube. These platforms have given me a platform. These platforms have given me a platform, ironically, and I'm very appreciative of that. But I do think that there's a real issue, and I do think that if you fast forward 10, 15, 20 years, if things play out correctly, we're going to see decentralized social media become more popular than some of these centralized products that dominate the market today. But I'd love to hear some of your thoughts, guys. Were you kind of shocked by how big of an impact that had on the on the crypto market, the AWS going down? Big thank you to Autumn Wolf, aka Michelle Wolf, in the old chat. Abs, I think all this bullish news warrants the playing of the Brad dance at the end of the episode. Now, I would play that, guys, but you know what's funny? I had to do profit sharing on that video because I guess that music is copyrighted. So unfortunately, I'm not going to be able to do that for you, Autumn, but I appreciate the $10. Massive thank you for the donations today, guys. And a big thank you to Thomas, aka Black Squirrel, for that $100 donation this morning. That was really, really thoughtful. So thank you so much, especially the message you sent. Here's some other big news that I want to cover before the end of the episode. XRP Ledger just broke into the top 10 for real-world asset tokenization with the acquisition of Treasury. We're now looking at $360 million worth of tokenized assets on the XRP Ledger. It's Julie Taft making me laugh. She said, "Oh, well, then no, LOL." Absolutely agree, guys. Listen, I love that. Not worth it. I'm going to say it like that. But I did want to make a point here. What we're going to see with the tokenization of real world assets, that whole narrative hasn't even really been implemented yet. Look at who's leading here. It's Ethereum, Polygon, Avalanche, Solana, Stellar, BNB Chain, and in 10th place, XRP. Now, what's so obvious about that list is that clearly it's going to change. Clearly, this list is going to be radically different in the next 24 months. And I just saw a major announcement out of the DTCC this morning. I'm going to show you guys this. I put it on my Twitter, where a representative actually said they're going to work on their number one priority right now is tokenizing the $100 trillion in tokenized assets that they have. Here's a 15-second clip.
So what are DTCC's latest initiatives then in the digital asset space?
Oh, we're busy doing a lot of cool stuff. First thing is our aspiration right now to tokenize all $100 trillion in custody that we have. That requires a fair level of cooperation, collaboration with our regulators, with our market participants, and really trying again to export some of these standards that have served the U.S. market so well for decades to ensure that they're infused into the digital infrastructure.
There you have it, guys. So once again, $100 trillion in tokenized assets. This is just the DTCC. What do we hear BlackRock say time and time again? The tokenization of everything, that we can have decentralized voting rights and all these different narratives. They're not doing that to benefit us. They are doing that because it benefits them. And I think companies like BlackRock understand this way better than they lead on. Just like how they did the 180 with Bitcoin, BlackRock was an anti-Bitcoin company. And then all of a sudden, they were pro-Bitcoin when they could sell the spot product. What do you think is going to happen here with tokenized assets? Same thing with blockchains, where it's like the second they can benefit and profit off the tokenization of real-world assets, that's when they're going to tell Mr. Flex-a-Lot in chat, shout out to you, hey, go buy some XRP actually. And he's going to tell them, I've been doing that for 5 or 6 years, my friends. So shout out to the innovators and forward thinkers in chat. But again, we are seeing some positive price action in the market. I did just want to remind you guys, again, I shared this data a lot, but I think it's important to note, especially during times like right now, October is historically the most bullish month for digital assets. 10 of the last 12 years, You're Mr. Flexlot. Shout out to you in chat. We appreciate you. But 10 of the last 12 years for crypto, October has closed in the green with an average return of 22%. We also have November being the second most bullish month historically for crypto, with Bitcoin 9 of the last 12 months, and meaning 9 of the last 12 years, closing in the green with an average return of over 30%. So I think it's very logical. The odds are working in our favor, guys. Think about it like it's Vegas. If I told you that I gave you a die and I said 10 of these 12 dies are green and 2 are red, you think you're going to roll a green? Odds are you're going to roll a green. Same thing with November. Now I give you a die and I say 9 of these 12 sides are green and 3 are red. Most likely you're going to roll a green. And that's kind of the odds that we're playing with here in the crypto market, where people were so nervous, so scared by that liquidation event we had a couple of weeks ago that they forgot what this asset class is. This asset class is the most volatile asset class in the history of assets. Period. Drop the microphone. Now, why is that so great? Gives us an opportunity to make a ton of money. Why is that dangerous? Because it gives us an opportunity to lose a ton of money. So I think it's pretty cool. I think that everybody who has the understanding of kind of where we are in this process, be ready. I would not be surprised at all. And again, I'm no TA guy. I just report the news here. But I wouldn't be surprised at all if XRP closes October above $3, right? Wouldn't be surprised at all. It's really going to be dictated by Bitcoin. But look at what Bitcoin's already been doing here. Appears to have bottomed out at that 105 collapse we saw. We're going up and testing some key ranges. We need a daily closure above 120,000. If we start getting daily and then a weekly closure above 120,000, this market is going to get very explosive. And it's the people who created a plan for themselves that are going to profit most during that time. I constantly remind you guys about Merlin. Click on the link below, sign up for Merlin, 30 days, completely free. So you can take advantage of all these products free. Click underneath the video. And what we do, we allow our listeners to create an exit plan. You can track all your crypto in one location. And most importantly, you get realistic goals for yourself when it comes to the crypto bull run. And I'll give you guys an example of this. If you haven't seen this before, we have this mock XRP exit plan here on this Merlin account. XRP currently trading at $2.50. We're executing a $10,000 sell order here. So we're going to be selling 10,000 units of XRP if we complete our exit plan. Now, for the large bull market community, guys, we choose some really high price targets. $100, we're selling 3,100 coins. $250, we're selling 5,000 coins. $1,000, we're selling 2,000 coins. If we execute on this exit plan, we're looking at nearly $3.7 million and an estimated tax of $811,000. Now, you can have some real fun with this. You can create much lower or higher price targets and get a realistic perception of what you should be aiming for, right? If you have 1,000 units of XRP, the game for you might be accumulation, might not even be taking profit. It might not be trying to play the markets. It might just be how much XRP can I accumulate? And there are people out there who I've spoken to them. They've got 150,000, 200,000 units of XRP, and all they're focused on doing is accumulating the asset. So if you only have 1,000 or 1,500, tokens, and you want to climb into that top 10%, meaning you get more than 2,500 units, I think a goal for you might just be focus on accumulation. Buy the lows, take advantage, celebrate the highs, don't take any profit. I don't know. But everyone's plan is going to be different. But I would say to those newer investors who don't have a huge, portfolio yet, the smartest thing for you may to be take the long-term approach, accumulate these assets, and don't think you're going to be rich overnight. But the best way to do it, guys, click on the link below, sign up for Merlin today, get access 30 days completely free, and you can take advantage of all the different features that we offer here on the Merlin application. But with that being said, let's get into some of the live donations, guys, because we're 38 minutes into the episode. I do want to give a huge shout out and thank you because we did pass, I think, let me get this right, 615 likes on the show. So a huge shout out and thank you to the best community in all of crypto. And I've told you guys that time and time again. The people in this chat, the people who watch these videos, that's what makes this community so special. And those are the people who should make a ton of money during this next bullish wave that I'm anticipating here, not just for XRP, but for the crypto market overall. And you heard Raul Paul say it at the beginning of the show as well. In 2026, some really smart people think that's going to be the bull market. That's going to be the euphoria. I haven't leaned into that. I've actually said I think this market's probably going to peak in late November, early December, but I'm very open-minded to changing my opinion. And again, my guess is not any better than anybody else out there. Look at Johnny Krypto in chat. Shout out to the best host in the game. Shout out to the best co-host in the game, my friend. Show Johnny Krypto some love out there because I got to give a special shout out to my boy. And let's get into some of these donations, guys. Richard said, Abs, thank you for everything you do. God bless you and the community and XRP. Amen, Richard. And I think that God will bless this community just with some of the exciting announcements that we've been able to cover today. It's getting really, really exciting here for XRP investors. Daniel Laura, thank you for the $4.99. Big shout out to you. No comment there, but we appreciate the $5 donation. Thank you so much. Ali said, what impact will Evernorth have on XRP investors? Sorry, retail XRP investors. This is going to create additional demand on exchanges. You can factor in the ETFs. You have retail investors. Now you have companies like Evernorth going directly to Coinbase and pulling XRP, adding demand and reducing supply. That's going to work in favor of the XRP price chart. Big thank you to Ali, special member of our community. Want to make sure I say that. Matthew, newly married Matthew in chat, said, Abs, what do you think about Google's GCUL.good for XRP? I don't think it's good or bad. Maybe I need to do my research, but when I analyzed it, it's a siloed system, right? I think they have different objectives here. XRP is that aggregate, that technology that can really tap into any ecosystem. What Google's doing here is more data oriented. I would actually compare it more to Chainlink than what's happening with Ripple and the XRP ledger. So I hope that's a good kind of short analysis. Thank you so much for the $2 donation, Matt, and congratulations to you and your wife. Easy Crypto with the $4.99. Big thank you to you, my friend, for the $5. When stablecoins replace paper dollars, will capital gains laws have changed? My anticipation is that Trump is going to work to reduce capital gains taxes for crypto. I've said that for a really long time, and I'm going to continue to say it. Eric Trump has been very outspoken about this issue as well. So if you think Donald Trump is good for his word, I would anticipate some changes on capital gains tax here inside the United States. Big thank you to Easy for the $4.99 and a massive shout out to Tommy Two Feathers in chat. That's pretty funny, AKA Black Squirrel. He said, Abs, thank you for continuing to do GEC at 11 a.m. Big shout out to you, Thomas. I'm excited to be here. And I got so many positive comments about people wanting to keep the show at 11 a.m. I thought it was necessary, guys. So big thank you to anybody who sent me a message. When I initially heard you guys were stopping GMC, it brought me to tears. Sorry to hear that. Listen, I'm not going anywhere. Nobody needs to be shedding tears out there. And I want to give a big shout out to Thomas because obviously you're a pillar of our community, but I would never just fade away into the darkness. So I'll always be out there, and I'm going to be here every day, twice a day on Good Evening Crypto. So if you think about it, you're really getting more content from me than ever. This show changed my life and continued to give me conviction when I was losing it myself. Very grateful for you, Johnny, Mario, and Gonzo. Thank you. Thank you so much, Tommy. That really is a powerful story. And I've always said, you know what this show's about? It's about being optimistic and realistic. We want our community to be the wealthiest community in all of crypto eventually. And we think a lot of our content is going to help people do that. But even more importantly, it's about things like this. Go out, touch some grass, hug some family, realize that relationships are most important, spending more time with your loved ones. That's going to give you more satisfaction than XRP going up 20% in a day. Trust me on that. And I think everybody who's mature in chat is going to say that. But remember, guys, prioritize your health. Do your push-ups, get in the ice bath, get in the sauna, hit the gym, walk on the treadmill. These are things that I think people don't prioritize enough nowadays. 10 to 15 minutes of simple exercise can dramatically change how you're feeling. So if you're going through a slump, you're depressed, one of the things you can do, get up, get active, keep moving. I think it's much more difficult to hit a moving target. Consider depression the one aiming that, if that makes sense. I don't want to say aiming the gun. That's a little graphic, but the idea here is that if you're active, if you're doing the right things, your body's going to respond in the correct way. I want to give a huge shout out and thank you to Tommy Two Feathers, AKA Thomas in chat, Black Squirrel, and a huge thank you for that $100 donation. It goes a very long way on this brand new channel. So thank you so much. I want to give a big shout out to Autumn Wolf as well, guys. She said, Abs, I think all this bullish news warrants the playing of the Brad dance at the end of the episode. Autumn, I can't play that, but you know what I can play? I can play that speech from Donald Trump. You may even get tired of winning. So with that being said, we love you guys. We appreciate you all. I'll be back for a 5:30 p.m. update later on today. If you enjoyed this content, it definitely helps us out. We're at 675 likes. Continue smashing that like button as we grow this new channel. And I'll make this promise. I'll be here every day, twice a day, 11 a.m. and 5:30 p.m. Eastern. So we love you guys. We appreciate you all. We'll see you all in 23 hours. And like we always say, get your shit together, baby. We'll see you all in the next one.
You're going to be so proud of your president, and I don't care about that. But you are going to be so proud of your country because we're going to turn it around and we're going to start winning again. We're going to win so much. We're going to win at every level. We're going to win economically. We're going to win with the economy. We're going to win with military. We're going to win with healthcare and for our veterans. We're going to win with every single facet. We're going to win so much, you may even get tired of winning. And you'll say, please, Please, it's too much winning. We can't take it anymore. Mr. President, it's too much. And I'll say, no, it isn't. We have to keep winning. We have to win more.
So if you're looking to do the same strategies that we implement here on Good Evening Crypto, I would advise everybody sign up for Merlin and click on the ITrust Capital link below. Now, why did these two ideas play off one another? Merlin is going to allow our listeners to understand where they should be taking profit in this market. And ITrust is going to allow our listeners to take that profit tax-free through an IRA product. Now, that's not the best part about this. We are giving new clients a $100 sign-up bonus using the promo code GEC9. So I would encourage everybody, click on the link below the video, use promo code GEC9, and set yourself up for success during this crypto bull market.